3 bank runs in less than a week. These are the second largest and third largest runs in history. The government is taking steps to guarantee all deposits. That means more money printing. Plus, the Fed is sitting on unrealized losses of $1.2 trillion on their $8.3 trillion bond portfolio. And the Fed will continue to raise interest rates even if they tank the economy. Do you know who are the only ones not afraid? The ones that are invested in gold, because gold is the most stable asset outside of any government control. Thousands have approached Noble Gold Investments to get their hands on gold. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com to secure your wealth now and get a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin with each gold or silver IRA if you qualify. noblegoldinvestments.com. noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a little bit of a different broadcast. We're traveling. We're hosting our Yada retreat during these days. And I wanted to come to you with a message that I shortly touched on in the Inspired Newsroom, our second channel. By the way, if you're looking for a different perspective on the daily news and the stories, go check out the link in the description. And please subscribe to the Inspired Newsroom as well. What I talked about and what I want to talk about today is something called tipping points. And maybe you've heard that term before in various connections with different topics. But we are approaching one, and I think actually 2 tipping points. And I'll get into why I think there'll be 2 tipping point events. First off, we need to realize that there are currently 2 distinct streams in society happening. I'll start with the one that is more visible to the observer, and that is mainstream society that is led by the Mockingbird media, the mainstream media that is led by mainstream thought. It is also society, or a society that you can describe it being under mind control, being under a mass formation psychosis. It basically takes its cues completely from outside of itself. So people are not driven by inspiration, by contemplation. They're not driven by free thought. They're actually driven by whatever the masters tell them. And the masters are the people on the screen, whether that's the media or the politicians or their celebrity of choice that is driving their thought process. And these people are currently in a feedback loop. They're caught in that loop. They have also been heavily influenced medically, biologically, and hence genetically. So this is something to just take into account here, that they have really, some of them to a certain extent have been so heavily manipulated that it's actually beyond saving, if you will. But these masses are currently in a spiral of seemingly unconnected, disconnected events, but they're all very much influenced by these events, and they're all very much connected, these events. And what I mean by that is, you look at what is happening in the world of war, right? I mean, you have warfare in Ukraine that is really expanding over the world just by support from the countries, which includes then the people. You have to see that when a country sends money over there, then actually the people are already connected to that cause, whether they want it or not. You have conflict zones ramping up, for example, in Taiwan, between China, Russia, and the West. There's a lot of fraction building and faction building right now around the world that is signaling heightened conflict, that is signaling an approach for a more violent era. And in concert with those developments, you have the social and civil unrest developments. You have an ever-growing divide between different groups of people that belong to one political box, or they belong to one, they identify differently in their faith, in their gender, in their race, and so many boxes. And the media and the politicians and everybody's driving this divide. Not everybody, but a lot of them are driving this divide in the mass formation psychosis society. And when I said I believe there's a tipping point coming, a tipping point is a seemingly small event that sets basically everything on fire. But a tipping point is never the beginning of a chain of events. It is basically the point of no return. So when I say all these events are happening, you also have a lot of train derailments and chemical explosions, environmental things. You have huge weather events, unprecedented, and you know, when you understand about geoengineering, when you understand about spraying in the skies, when you understand about the technologies that are not openly visible to the masses that are implemented, when you understand terms like weather warfare and so on and so forth, then you see that in this field there is also a war waged against the people. And hence, among this one group of society, there is currently so much discontent, there's so much imbalance and uncertainty, and also aggression and violence building up, right? All these factors play into that. And this is something that is provoked by design. And so this part of society is approaching a tipping point where one thing that will happen will be the one thing that'll be enough to ignite the whole group or large sections of the group. It's already happening. You know, you see it in France, mass protests. You see in Israel, mass protests. And even though that these events are always steered, you still have to ignite the emotions of the people to get them to actually go out there. And soon there will be one event, whatever that will be, if it is some sort of attack, and it won't have to be huge, but it's one event that will trigger this section of society, and they will react, and they will react strongly. This is what I'm observing in this group of society. And this is what kind of troubles a lot of people in another group of society, because they're not seeing their own tipping point also approaching. And here I want to switch over to the other group, the second group in society, that if you want to label them a group, that are also spiraling, but they're spiraling upward. It's a group of people that are experiencing and going through something people call waking up, or the awakening, or escaping, or transcending the matrix. There's many terms for this, and the term again does not matter. What matters is what the experience is. And this group of people is not just becoming aware of the manipulation they've been exposed to all their lives. They're actually raising their frequency, raising their vibration, and taking inspired action in very positive ways. Not all of them, but that's what is happening. And within this group, there's also a tipping point approaching. It is like a mass contagion. And what I mean by that is when a critical mass of people experience something and raise their energy accordingly and take inspired action accordingly, it begins to wash over the whole group, because there is a field that is not just recording all of our thoughts and actions and feelings. It is actually like a feedback loop. It keeps sending back to us this energy, and it sends it to everybody who is in the vibrational vicinity of those thoughts, feelings, and actions. That's why you see streams of thought and realization and consciousness appearing in different parts of the world simultaneously. Inventions, ideas. It is because of this field. And we are in this group, you can call it the organic group, you can call it independent free thinkers, you can call them freedom lovers, whatever you want. Within this group, we have a convergence right now of people that are taking inspired action and are actually implementing things that were previously only talked about. And so we are also approaching a tipping point where there will be such a strong energy around all the work that we do that it will literally wash over. It will be like the overflowing cup. But it does require all of our cooperation on this. And in a very universal and spiritual law kind of way, this is the yin and the yang, right? The one group that's going completely downward and the one group that's going upward, it's like the eternal balance of light and darkness. And eventually there will be a back to balance, and there will be a beautiful unification. That might be quite some time out, I believe, but currently our main focus needs to be on our tipping point, right? And the beautiful thing with tipping points is when they happen, we don't know what a tipping point event is, but you see signs of it. You saw actually earlier this year, there was a revival movement that was born spontaneously up in Kentucky, and it spread all over the place. And these revival movements are happening all over the world. These are also approaching tipping points, and they are spreading across different denominations. They're spreading across different streams of faith and belief systems, which is so important and beautiful. So that is also happening, right? We are seeing all of this, and it is wonderful and it is important. So I encourage everyone to really, really go within and focus on balancing, focusing on connection, and on taking inspired action right now, because this tipping point could be something you do. Literally, it could be something you put out into the world. It could be something that comes from your corner of the world, from your community. You could be the one. And it isn't about you or the ego way of I am the one who did it, but you could be the one thing that tips the scale. And again, the idea here is that we create a tipping point for the people that are in this awakening stage, so we can really move forward by creating and forging the beautiful path that we all know is possible. It doesn't mean we can ignore the other group. It doesn't mean we won't have to deal with them, but it shouldn't be our main focus, right? Because we, as a collective, we don't just create a new path together. It also creates a protective shield around this new path. It creates a buffer zone. And so when we talked about the split of the timelines between the artificial AI-driven, between this dystopian timeline and between the natural, divinely inspired timeline, this is another way of looking at it. It is pretty much the same thing, but it is happening. And the wonderful thing is that we're all getting these downloads simultaneously. I saw a comment earlier today on one of our a segment actually on the tipping points that I did yesterday in the Inspired Newsroom, and someone commented, "Are you psychic? Because today on Fox News, Laura Ingham is talking about this," and I'm like, "No, it's all connected. Believe it. Believe me, it's all connected. We are receiving these downloads. Specific words are coming through for a reason, right?" And one more thing, because this kind of plays into this all, is that a lot of people are saying we should come together in one place. And the coming together in one place is the last option. That's the Noah option. That's the Ark option. That's when shit hits the fan so badly that we can't help but get together and basically survive solely as a survival group to keep the species and everything going. And you know, I'm not saying this is out of the question, but we're not there yet. Right now, I think the beautiful thing is that we're spread all over the place. So we are building little cells everywhere, right? And these cells are then connected. That's the beautiful thing. So if you feel like you're isolated, don't look at it that way. Look at it, you are one lighthouse in one place where you can inspire others around you. And so then these lighthouses connect with each other all over the place. That way we have the greatest impact, also geographically speaking, on the largest amount of people. So this is kind of what these tipping points are about. And I'm you know, as always, I'm excited because we're actually accelerating. It's going faster. And I know with the horrible events that we're seeing in the world, it doesn't seem like it, but that is a sign everything is accelerating. And we don't actually want it to slow down at this point anymore, because it needs to happen. This energy that's pent up, that was built up, it needs to experience a release. The question is, can we channel it into a creative release, into a positive release, at least on our end, which will counterbalance the negative explosion on the other side. This is the stage I believe we're in. And for me, it's nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. Fear is actually the ultimate sin. It's the absence of faith and knowing that we're divinely created and equipped with the divine purpose. So with all that being said, just wanted to bring you this update here. Would love to hear your inspired, intuitive comments and thoughts in the comments, and really go within, tune in, and see what comes through you and to you, rather than just a reactive thought from a previous knowing. We have to step into the field more often and really experience what we're receiving from Spirit, from God, from that energy, because that's ultimate truth. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in. Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, we love you, we appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon.